Good evening. I'm about to get ready for the Baltimore Pen Show tomorrow, and I just got back 2 weeks ago, from the California Pen Show 2024, which was unbelievable. And I am remiss, I am behind in doing a video on this and on so many things, especially the pen shows I've been going to lately because I've been doing a lot. But I went kind of overboard with the California Pen Show because I met a bunch of people I'd never met before and had wanted to meet for a long time. Craig Roccanova is one of them. I met Greg Manuskin, who's doing some nib work for me, which was really cool. He's like the nib guy when it comes to really fixing nibs if they have issues, cracks, and he does laser welding, and he does nib re-tipping. He's phenomenal. And just a bunch of wonderful people. Mario Campa, who was one of the people who put it together. I finally got to meet Otto Yang, finally. It was wonderful to meet him. He's, of course, old friends with Pierre Gustafson. We've got this kind of small group of people who kind of have gotten to know each other really pretty well over the past few years. But anyway, the show was unbelievable, and they had a ton of remarkable pens. I mean, really extraordinary pens. And I went nuts buying what I bought. And it's a good thing that I'm doing this video, I think, because I haven't really touched on this. There's a real difference between collector pens and user pens. And I'm the last person to be behind pigeonholing of any kind, believe me. But yeah, there's a difference, and there's a continuum. I am a user. I love to use these pens. That's at the heart of it, I think, for me, in a lot of ways. I try to get everything into one pen, as I like to say. I like to have something with a really interesting history, a great design, and when I say history, I mean the history from both the vantage of the manufacturer and the design of the pen, but also the story behind the pen itself, the life that it lived. And I want one with a great nib that can really do amazing things. I want it to be a comfortable pen. Personalizations are fascinating. This is from the Bristol Radio Club of 1926 on a 1936 pen that was made of solid gold, and it took 10 years for them to get around to selling it at the store where it was, because who can afford such an expensive pen, and there have been a lot of spirited discussions, shall we say, about a lot of these pens in a lot of the forums online, especially on Facebook. I'm in a bunch of them. I run my own group, Vintage Flex Fountain Pens, which I think is actually a really good one for people who like to use fountain pens, especially, obviously, ones that are vintage and have flexible nibs. That's the whole point of the group. But there's the vintage aspect as well, and that includes pens that are just really special and beautiful, and other ones that may not look as amazing, but be phenomenal ones when it comes to how they write. And I just wanted to kind of touch on some of these things, give you a quick overview of what I picked up at the show, because it's ridiculous and it's really cool and fun. And I will do more in-depth looking at them, but ignore these for the time being, or we will ignore these over, because those I already had before the show, but these I got at the show. So this one here I got from Otto. And I got these three from Otto. And this is a Waterman's Moderne, which a lot of people like to call the Night and Day. There's also a Night and Day that was from France, so that confuses things, but I'll show you that one in a bit. This is late 20s, like 1928 or so. Could be a little bit newer. This is a Maybe Todd Swan in sterling, also from the 1920s. Just a really nice writer, really pretty pen. This one over here is a Chilton from Boston. I love Boston pen companies. The man who did this pen, who started this company, his father created the blow filler, and I always get their names mixed up. It's Seth Crocker Chilton. I can never remember their names. But anyway, this has a pneumatic filling system. So it's based on the blow filler. And I'm going to do more videos about these things in detail. But it's a fascinating filling system. The whole barrel slides out, and it has a little hole in it. It's just funky. This is a great example of a pen that nobody should ever use ever at all. It was very expensive. You can see why. It's a Parker 15. It's from about 1910-ish. Could be 1908. Could be 1912. I don't know exactly. There's a lot of missing information about Parker. So it's just it's a lot of guesses. I keep asking questions. Nobody has answers. This is a Parker 16, roughly from the same period. By the way, the 15, this one has alternating mother of pearl and abalone slabs. Sometimes they're corrugated. I have one that is corrugated. That's a rarer and more valuable one than this one, but this is still rare and valuable. The 16, that was the number that which this one is. They gave that number for basically any gold-filled pen for years. This is also a 16, which has no resemblance whatsoever to the other. This one's from about 1918, 1919. I know it's in the 1918 catalog, I believe it is, that I have. And as you can see, it's a hermaphrodite. You know, it has both a clip and a ring top, which is really weird. Parker did that occasionally. This is a really cool Waterman's 412 from about 1903 to 1905. This is has a clip. The clip didn't really come out till 1906. I mean, yes, they were available in very limited numbers in 1905 before they had their patent fully done. That's the neighbor trying to knock down the house. The patent date on the clips is September, I forget, I think it's the 26th of 1905. So, you know, anyway, obviously it's later than that. This is a great pen. This one I think I'm probably going to end up writing with a little bit. This is a hard to find Waterman's 0555, gold filled, 55 size. It's oversized, has a phenomenal nib. This is a great one because it's both really kind of cool and collectible, but it's also user grade barely, so you don't feel too guilty using it. This one here is a, where is it? There it is. This one's a Willwright, which is like a second or third tier company, but it's just a really fun, pretty pen, well made. It was cheap, but it's a really neat one, and it's got a great flexible nib. The one next to it, right here, this little guy that's black. Oh yeah, that's a Schaefer that I paid too much money for, but it's really nice. It has a great flexible nib. This is, and that one's from, God, I should be giving dates. This one's probably 1925-ish. This one's about 1903, I told you that. This one's, you know, like mid-20s. This Schaefer here is early. It's 1922 at the newest. Could be late teens. Somewhere in there. Great flexible nib. I love Schaefers with flexible nibs. This is from about 1929. It's an early Schaefer balance with a flexible nib, which at that time was almost impossible to find because they stopped making their flexible nibs pretty much by that time. They were doing their super nail type nibs, and they became known for them. That's what they did with the Lifetime pens, and there were all these lawsuits because they weren't really honoring their lifetime warranties without charging customers because they were going to lose their shirts. This one here is a Maybe Todd. I think it's a New York one. It's the 130, which is like the 230, just a little smaller. It's very pretty. Has a really neat, the top of it has a really cool pattern. It's hard rubber. This one's, you know, late 1926 area. So this one's like 1929-ish. This is an earlier Wahl all-metal pen in the colonial pattern. Great nib, just wonderful. Got that from Mike Daigle. Great writer. That one's like 1923-ish, 1924, somewhere around there. We're going to ignore these for the time being. This one here, super hard to find, super rare. This is a Night and Day pattern that I mentioned earlier. It's French. This is a 14 with the Night and Day pattern over-modeled. It's sterling silver over-modeled. That's extremely hard to find. Great pen. It's French. Again, you know, late 20s. Same thing here with this. This is a 44, Waterman's 44. Also the Night and Day pattern in sterling silver. Also really hard to find. This one's over Ripple. Again, you just don't find these. One cool detail, by the way, about this one is that the overlay is so precisely made and aligned with the pen barrel that you see. You can actually see the imprint. Now, obviously, now you can't, but I'll be doing more detailed videos about these. Matthew Greenberger, he's great. He was at the show. Phenomenal guy. He runs, well, I don't want to get into it, but he's a great guy. He's very funny, very smart. Been collecting forever, and you know he's kind of a big wheel in this world. He runs a pen club in Southern California as well. This is the 05 52.5 gold-filled Oriental. This is another really hard pen to find. Really pretty, in excellent condition. And yeah, there's a spirited conversation going on in a couple of the groups on Facebook with Otto, like, hey, what makes this so Oriental? And, you know, I wonder why it was so short-lived and so on. Great questions. And, you know, we'll get into them. And this one over here is an 05 12.5 Waterman Safety. Got it from a lovely French gentleman. I think I paid probably about, well, let's just say a lot more than I should have. But, again, you don't see these that often. I haven't really seen one in the real world, and it's just really lovely, and it has a great nib. So I wanted to show you those pens and maybe take one of these out and write with it, just to show you that I do actually care about writing with my pens. And this is a great pen, great writer. But the big point I wanted to make is that, you know, there are some pens that are just so valuable and so rare and in such good condition that to use them really would be a shame. In that respect, vintage fountain pens do differ from automobiles. Cars, you just really want to drive. Even if it's a $2 million 1923 Bugatti, you know, they beg to be used. I would say that's largely, it isn't necessarily the case with pens, but not to use them in a lot of ways is sad and unfortunate, and it doesn't make any sense unless the pen you're talking about is super rare, in great condition, and it would be unfortunate if you used it otherwise, especially if it's got stickers on it and that sort of thing, and it's new old stock. You know, that just doesn't make any sense, especially if you've got a comparable pen in terms of its nib and what it can do in terms of how it writes. Just use that one. You know, that just makes sense. Now, I will also admit that if I were given a choice between that crazy fancy Parker 15, this may not be the best example, but if I were given a choice between that pen from 1908 to 1912, or roughly that period, that has a manifold stiff nib in it, and one that has one that's just a beautiful flexible nib, even if I'm never ever going to use it, just having that flexible nib adds a little bit more zhuzh. It's just a really nice, sweet thing to have on top of everything. So I opt to go for that if I can, but ultimately it's not that important, and I've seen some really great collections, super great collectors who have phenomenally rare pens with nibs that are just a total disaster. You know, half the tine is missing. They don't even care. Again, I try to get as much into one pen as I can. I try to get a really pristine, flexible nib if I can. If it's a good price and there's a little damage, but it's really rare, who cares? You can upgrade later if you want. Sometimes you end up with a duplicate along the way. Oh, this one's in better condition. Then you can sell the one that's not in quite as good condition. And that's great, because then you've got a pen you can use. So anyway, about this pen, what's great about this pen is it strikes a balance between being, a rarer collectible pen and one that's not pristine, not entirely perfect, so you don't feel too guilty about actually using it. Going to zoom in a little bit more, give you a little bit more of a look. Over here, if you'll note, this is an accommodation clip. Right here, this big, chunky, beautiful clip. I love these things. This pen originally had a clip. It has the clip holes in it, which I believe are directly under here, according to Mike, who sold it to me. Mike Daigle, great guy. He tunes his pens unlike just about anybody. I mean, he used to be terrific. I mean, phenomenal. And then he just got better. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, so he's got an accommodation clip on here because the original one evidently came off. And if you'll note, it's got a little bit of brassing. It's not, 100% pristine there. So that, in a way, kind of makes me breathe a little easier about using it, because you don't find these. Again, it's, to find a bigger overlay like this, I don't know if you can see this or not. But, this is an 0555. Yeah, that's not really looking like much, is it? It's an 0555. And you just don't really see those. There we go. It's upside down. But it's just really cool to have one and to be able to write with it. Anyway, so I will maybe give you a little writing sample here, just for the heck of it. And everybody I showed it to went, oh boy, oh, including Paul Arano, who's great. He's kind of everybody's dad, everybody's pen show dad in a way. Just such a wonderful person. He's been doing this forever. He's just got a ton of wisdom about all this stuff. So he's one of the people to listen to. David Nishimura is another one to listen to. He's great. He really participates in the forums too. He really kind of keeps an eye on everything to make sure that good information's getting out there. That's important. You know, there's a lot of old collector lore and a lot of stuff that isn't quite true or that was assumed. You know, people like nice, neat, clean answers to things, and oftentimes there just aren't any at all. You know. So anyway, but this is just a great pen. Let me see what we can do with this thing. Haven't written with it in a while. Let's zoom in a little bit. It's not too bad. Such a good pen. This thing's marvelous. You know, and once you use it, you want to use it all day. Yeah, I love this thing. Apologies if I'm sounding like I'm getting louder and softer. I'm moving around here. But it's just a marvelous pen. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. And I will see you very soon. I have to go because I have to pack for the show. Good grief. But it's going to be a blast. I hope to see some folks out there in Baltimore. It's going to be, is it going to start, is it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I think it is. So it's, I don't even know what the days are. It's going to be March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So anyway, we hope to see you. And have a great time with your pens. Well, let's see. That's a very good spot to stop at. But anyway, thank you so much, guys. Enjoy.